Right, we moved backwards. We did box 27 yesterday, and it was just the one set in there, which was the it wasn't, it was the Mustang CB1000, which Alan had kindly sent us. So, this is the final radio from box 26. So then we'll move on to box 28, won't we? I'll just press some buttons here. I've got 10 minutes before we need to go to church. It's Thursday and it's Monday, Thursday. So I just thought we'll make a start. It might be possible to do 10 minutes now and 30 minutes later. See if we can sort this out in one day. So York JCB861. Lights up, no TXRX. What's happened to the front? It hasn't got one. So if any of you out there have a scrap York 861 that I can buy the front from, either email me or put a message on the thing and we'll see whether we can actually finish this off. So it says no TX or RX. I'm going to open it up first because it's an unknown, isn't it? So we'll do that before we start filling in any things. It could have been killed. It's the earlier version. It has the LC7136 synthesizer. Ah. It shouldn't have 3 knobs, should it? So somebody's somebody's kind of put a control in but not wired it up for a display dimmer. Right. So we've got a power lead stub. But it doesn't look all mashed up, not that I've seen the other side of it. So I'll plug it into the test gear. Slightly bent at the back. I'll just go for 13.8 volts. Powers up. Got a bit of dirt in there. That will fix itself in use. It's supposed to have the tone switch. I can't remember. Right. So it doesn't have PA on this model. There's so many variants. It's, one runs into another, and you think, has that got the PA? I always welcome PA. It really helps with fault finding. It's got plenty of wear on control knobs, so it's certainly had lots of use. Squelch works. We've got no transmit. But we've got a racket on receive. So see whether it's actually receiving. If I put this into the signal generator, channel 20, 27,79125. Doesn't look like the VCO's been messed with. I don't like to see wax in that trimmer capacitor. Right, so we haven't got any receive. So let's see if the VCO is running. I think those crocodile clips that Alan kindly sent could be in box 29. We'll find. We haven't got the strapping between the two. I'm going to fit that because it does help me getting an earth point. At the moment, we'll run it from the back of the power connector. So I'll just check we've got volts. We have. So resistor 4 far end. It's just full rail voltage, and so it is there. So what I'm going to do, we'll start by adjusting the trimmer. Right, nothing there. Get the oscilloscope out and see if we can spot any activity on the 10.24 crystal. In view of not having a handy probe, what can we use? A piece of wire you find on the bench. No. Hang on a minute, they're insulated. That wouldn't work. I'll just take the screws out of the bottom. Have we got a missing voltage to the synthesizer for the first time ever? I've not seen that on a Cybernet yet. So once again, we will look at the bottom here before we get the circuit out. And we have 10.24. Just press auto. So there is power getting to the chip, or we wouldn't have the crystal with activity. Mind you, it's off frequency, isn't it? Right, we'll put the oscilloscope back. And I'll pause the video and I'll see what we can do when we come back from church. Right, so we're back from the Monday, Thursday church service. So, printed off the square kit diagram for the Rotel 220. I don't have a York 861. York didn't bother replying when I asked for service manuals at the time. There's a capacitor there, capacitor 4. That's an electrolytic capacitor. That is the only capacitor which I think could drag this down. So I'm going to change that, and they're all of 12p or something like that. So we'll do that first, and then we'll just check we've got the correct rail voltage, which I'm sure we have. Otherwise we won't have got the reference oscillator running. And then, before we start delving into anything like this in the wax department, the chances are the phase lock loop chip's been zapped. And looking at the fact the set has been messed with, that is quite a possibility. So we have to look for capacitor 4. So hopefully I won't have to dig another service manual out to find it. Yes, it's that one there. So I'll turn the power off and I'll get that whipped out and changed. Right, well that's the power back on. That's interesting. Well, Mr. 21, looks like we've hit it right. Don't know about you, but I can hear the signal generator coming through now. So, this 1 microfarad capacitor, what does it read? Says it's fine, really. Not the right kind of ESR I'd expect, but there you go. Right, that can go in the bin. So we'll get the meter back and set up the VCO. I'm glad it wasn't the synthesizer. I think they're £18 of LC7136s. So, usual thing now. This has not been disturbed ever. Oh, we want channel 40, don't we? There we are. Channel 40. It's supposed to be 4 volts. So it's a little bit high. So we're going to have to deal with that. And on transmit it should also be 4 volts. It's 3.3. I don't like this because I've got to... That should never have got wax in it. I think we'll leave it. I don't want to leave it that high. If this was a customer set, we'd actually change the trimmer capacitor. I'd like to have this on. We're going to have this on day in, day out. But I'd like to. If this was a customer set, so I've got to have that changed and be monitored for several days, and at different temperatures. Right, so I'm satisfied. Oh, so far we've spent about 16 pence on it. But it's that front issue, isn't it? It's not worth anything in its state that it's in. Oh, I think it's the 6th of April. Yeah, I said it was yesterday, but it wasn't. So we haven't touched anything apart from the VCO. So it was no phase lock loop operation, change C4 1 microfarad at 50 volts. VCO was it was high, wasn't it? No, it was low. 3 volts plus, I think it was 3.2 volts. Anyway, it's 4 volts plus 4 volts now. So I've fiddled with the frequency, so it's irrelevant what it was before. I'll tell you what, we'll do that right away. 2779125. Well, at least it's above, so the crystal works properly. $17,927, slightly high, so that it's got room to drop. So we'll go through these things because I haven't disturbed anything on the radio other than that. We know that the meter lamp works. It doesn't have PA. It doesn't have a mic. So let's look at what the meter reads when we press transmit. It reads 3.5. So if we put the camera onto the main meter here, we'll start with the 3 watt range, and it's just doing 3 watts. So we'll go down to channel 1. It's a bit more, change scales, it's 3.1 watt. Let's go back to the other scale, chances are it would be less. Yeah, 2.95 watts. On low power, going back to channel 20, I don't think this has worked for years because the channel selected display was flickery, wasn't it, when I first came to it? Well, it isn't now. It's 170 milliwatts. And then back to normal power, it's 868 milliamps, which is nice and efficient, but it's not only doing 3 watts. Deviation, wallow. Wallow. It's 1.5 kilohertz. So we'll go through the transmitter. Making sure we're on channel 20 still and it hasn't wandered off somewhere. If these have a TX light, this one hasn't. Don't you get a TX light in that hole? I think you do. So when we eventually get a front on this, something else to address. So that was in the correct position already. Slight improvement on that. No improvement on that. Now we'll try and tune the PA. So as I said before, you need to get this really above 4.4 watts. That one's, is that first one not moving? No, it's not. It's like it's the wrong one in there. Let's get the other kit out. So try and peak this. Yes, that's gone to 4.2. That's got 4.4. And that's brought it up to 4.7. I'd quickly go through these again. Someone's changed this core and it's a different, slightly different one. So I'll leave that tool in there. It's all about balancing this between the 40 channels. So about 4.8 watts. So as I've said a million times, the reason this can do more power is so you can balance it properly and so that it's reliable. So the legal limit is 4 watts. That's why we're setting it to. And I'm not the police. I'm not the DTI or whatever they're called, or Busby, but it makes no difference to thrash these things, and you will kill the PA. So I do see these left at full whack, and you must never do that. So it's clockwise for 4.4 watts, and then it's anti-clockwise on the green one. The manual says 3.8 watts, but we're going to do 4 watts, the legal limit, because we're not trying to get it through customs like the importer is. So put that away and leave that one out. So we've now got 4 watts, which is probably the first time in its life. It's now 1 amp. So we'll now look at channel 40. It's dead on 4 watts. And channel 1, he's dead on 4 watts. My goodness, that doesn't often happen. They like you to have it within 0.1. Sometimes you can only achieve 0.2, but that's amazing. So you have a set with a crummy front and it turns out to be a corker. So low power. So see where low power is now. 110 milliwatts. What we tend to find is this seems to be dirty. Sometimes it needs replacing. So we'll waggle that preset around and let's see what we can get now. 410. Good. So now we'll set the meter to something meaningful. Oops, we'll take it back to power. So it's over the top. Now got 4 on that. So now it's the deviation. So I want to get this one to the central position, and then we'll just adjust. That's good, isn't it? We'll just adjust RV2. Let's see where we are now with the deviation. Wow, it's quite a bit low, that. Right, so we've got we've happened a few days ago. The deviation meter on this test set has been playing up, so I had to use an accessory one to do that. You have to take my word for it that wallow 1.2 is actually 2.5. So that is frustrating, and there's nothing I can do about it. We can't be stripping the bench down and not being here for a long time. So, and as I've said before, if the test set packed up, we would not be able to do anything because of the ongoing building work. So it's the only bench we've got set up at present. So we'll put the extension speaker back in because I have to unplug that. So let's see how the receiver is, because we haven't touched anything yet. So I'll switch the cyanide meter on, we'll go over to that. So for 12 dB cyanide, it's doing 0.58. For 10 dB, it's doing 0.45. For 20, it's 1.65. Squelch threshold is 100 microvolts at tight, and at the other end it's 0.45 microvolts. That's very good. So let's hope it stays the same. S meter is what? It's never S9. It's greater than 100 millivolts, which is the maximum that it goes to. Right, here goes. So we'll get the detector set. So put this on the oscilloscope. Let's have a look at the detector. Got S9 equivalent signal, and we want maximum recovered audio. That was marginally out. Over to the cyanide meter. .4 dB. So we're not saturating it. I'll have to change scales, that's made an improvement. So now on the 0.3 maximum scale. That's fine. That's fine. Bigger signal for these IFs. Oh, that's it, you've not got the extra ones, have you? Right, so new reading time. What we've got now. So for 12 dB, let's go to the attenuator. Let's go to the attenuator. We're on the 1 scale, 0.42. For 12 dB, 0.36. For 20 dB, let's check I'm still on frequency. I think I knocked it. No, I didn't. It's 1.2. So squelch to full, 100 microvolts, which is where we want it. And the other end is now set the radiator threshold, signal generator back on. No, I don't think I set that right. Let's try again. Set threshold. That's better. Signal generator back on. It's 0.32. Which is excellent. So S meter. We want S9, which is 100 microvolts. There. So now, hopefully we can get somewhere around plus 30. We can. Good. Don't need to adjust squelch, which is down there. That's it. We're done. So what's in's working. So we'll put this together for now. We're going to use this ourselves in our TARDIS outside, which we're going to show you. We have a little shed outside. We have a CB in, so people can call. And we have a dodgy looking CB usually, so nobody nicks it. Because we don't lock that shed, so somebody can use the radio. Like Gardner. So we're going to do a scratchy corner test. I think Mr. Chippy's revving himself up. Wonder when this last worked. I think that there was that time when CB radios had no value and they just became play toys. Mind you, they still use them as play toys to talk on, don't they? So potentially that phase lock loop problem could have been a difficult fix or an expensive fix, but it was a capacitor fix. The only scrap York 861 I've got, I might show you if it's here. Here's the only scrap 861 we've got. So, you know, how do you straighten that out? I may be a church organ builder, but you know, that's the difficulty, isn't it? I want something better than that. If anybody's got something, we will buy it. And then it'll look nice again. And we can get rid of that. So where's the extra knob come from? Has somebody smashed up a York 863 for an extra knob? It's the kind of thing they do, isn't it? Right, so test equipment off. Case is gaping at this side. Still gaping. Okay, so it doesn't fit properly at that side. Right, this is where we find out whether the internal speaker works. Well, it sounds like it does, but until we hear something on it, that means nothing. One nano, Roger. I think that wanted cleaning. They are self-wiping, but oh, I'm doing the wrong one. Still got a bit of a lift on. $19 a Roger. Ah, mega chippy channel it is. We'll put the bench dog thingy underneath and we'll get that scratchy corner tested immediately. Thanks for watching the York 861, kindly given to us by the customer whose box 28 contained 8 radios, and all we need is a front, pretty please.